Welcome to our Lunch and Learn series featuring our resource connections recorded live via Zoom. I want to thank Eastern Region Alliance for joining us today and presenting on this important topic.
I'm Nate Head with the St. Louis Office for Developmental Disability Resources. Today, we just wanted to kind of look at who you see this logo on the left, the Eastern Region Alliance. What is that? You heard Amy say just a minute ago the SB40 board. What is that? And look at our what we do, who we are, our funded service categories. There's a commitment to quality and accountability, and then also we're going to get into how some of the unique and some of the differences in Jefferson County, St. Charles County, St. Louis County, and St. Louis City, and share some some other resources too. If I could go back to the late 1960s, Missouri voters approved legislation, also known as the Senate Bill 40 or SB 40, that allowed the citizens of each Missouri county to vote on a property tax levy that would dedicate funding for support services for individuals with developmental disabilities. County boards that were created as a result of that tax levy refer to themselves as SB 40 boards. And so each SB 40 board is governed by a 9-member board of directors. Board members are volunteers, and they're appointed by the mayor or county executive. Board members have term limits, so each of us goes through cycles where we are looking for board members. So if anyone is interested, reach out to one of us so we can share more information about being a board member. And I would say that nearly every county in Missouri passed the legislation. Voters in St. Charles County, Jefferson County, St. Louis County, and St. Louis City all passed it back in the late 70s, early 80s. And since then, the 4 counties that are here with you, we operated fairly independently of one another. Over the years, we've collaborated off and on, but in 2019, the 4 boards took that collaboration to the next level. We were more intentional, more coordinated, more purposeful, and we saw that at our roots, we had a lot of similarities, and we funded many of the same organizations and programs. We believe that if we worked together and focused our efforts on the right things, we could create many efficiencies and increase capacity for ourselves and the organizations that we fund. So our collaboration is now known as the Eastern Region Alliance. It's not a merger, rather it's an agreement that as much as possible, we will align our funding practices, our expectations for quality and accountability, our service guidelines, and our invoicing processes while still respecting the unique challenges and differences of each county. Our vision for our alignment, work to simply put it, was to be better funders, to share better data with the taxpayers, showing the return on their investment. We saw that through our collaboration and alignment, we were able to tap into the strengths and expertise from each county and its team members. Each county board team brought its own culture and philosophy to the table, which helped us all to look at things differently and find solutions that we may not have thought of if we were doing it on our own. And so to summarize that vision, we wanted to address the varied challenges each county board face in achieving their missions. We wanted to use technology to unleash the power of data in driving process improvement and decision making. We wanted to relieve administrative burden and reduce costs placed on partner agencies that are associated with duplicative and or conflicting standards, policies, and processes. We wanted to create an environment and infrastructure that empowers us all to examine ways to operate more efficiently, and we wanted to measure and articulate the impact of the services that we fund. I mentioned earlier how each county board and team had its own culture and philosophy, but we needed to create a new aligned culture and philosophy or guiding principles to direct and shape how we do our work. how we engage with each other, and how we engage with our funded partners. So we created these 8 guiding principles that we believe articulate the characteristics of quality services and partnerships. The expectation is that county boards and our funded partners strive to live these out. So over the past few years, I would say we've achieved our vision. We were able to collect data in ways we couldn't previously, which allows us to meaningfully report the impact of our investments as a county and as a region. And we have great relationships with one another and with our funded partners. And we've seen how this work makes services better. And so in a nutshell, that's who we are. And our funding, each of our groups, our funding supports an array of services for individuals of all ages. And in this next section, we're going to run through our funded service categories and all the options available to individuals and families.
As Nate mentioned, we have a wide variety of services that we fund within our region. And so Kathy and I are going to kind of walk through our service categories. And so a large majority of our funded services are organized within service categories. And so we're going to start with community living. And so within community living, these services are supporting individuals to develop and maintain the skills that are needed to reside in the community, just the same way that you and I do. And so this includes pre-ISLA. And so pre-ISLA is a support or a service that supports individuals who currently live in their natural home with the goal of moving out into their own home within 2 years. These services are time limited, and individuals must be at least 18 to be able to receive pre-ISLA services. In St. Charles County, there are 4 providers, and those providers include Caring Solutions, Easter Seals Midwest, the Center for Specialized Services, and Willows Way. In St. Louis County, we have 6 providers. And so those are all of our ISLA providers that we're going to talk about in just a second, as well as the Center for Specialized Services. ISLA is a service that supports individuals to continue to live independently in their community. So these services may be supporting individuals to maintain their own residence or keep their homes clean and organized. A lot of individuals may need assistance with cooking or maintaining, their kitchen and healthy meals, assistance with making appointments, physician appointments, those types of things, etc. They really promote the development of the skills like we just talked about for independent living. They also assist people with accessing the community. Agencies that are funded under this service can provide up to 50 hours a month or 600 hours annually to each individual who's receiving ISLA services. In Jefferson County, we have Sunny Hill. In St. Charles County, again, Caring Solutions, Easter Seals Midwest, the Center for Specialized Services, and Willows Way. In St. Louis City, there are 6 providers: AADD, Bridges, Easter Seals Midwest, MERS, Preferred Family Healthcare, and Sunny Hill. And then in St. Louis County, we have Bridges, Easter Seals Midwest, St. Louis ARC, Sunny Hill, and UCP. The last service in community living is ILAF, or Independent Living Assistance Fund. These are funds that can only be utilized for individuals whose income is limited and who is unable to purchase new or replacement items for their home on their own. Examples of items that can be purchased are things like home furnishings, washers and dryers, kitchen items, mop, bucket, those types of things, bathroom items, lawn equipment. We'll also fund moving expenses and health and safety items. ISLA participants who are moving out on their own for the first time are eligible for startup furnishings in an amount not to exceed $2,500. And ISLA replacement furnishings have an annual cap of $1,000. These are available, in St. Louis City, St. Charles County, and St. Louis County. In St. Louis City and St. Louis County, each ISLA provider has a separate service with those funds allocated to that service. And then in St. Charles County, the agency will request the funds from DDRB directly. Our next service category is community integration. This category encompasses camp. Camp is camp for adults and kids. A majority of our camp funding goes through the Recreation Council of Greater St. Louis, and the Recreation Council utilizes vouchers to various camp programs. These can include sleepaway camps or overnight camps, as well as day camps. And as I said, these are available to both children and adults. Some of us also fund summer and school break day camps directly to provide inclusive or specialized camp experiences to children. And we're going to go over our websites later on in the presentation. And so you'll be able to find specific partners in the services that we fund through our respective websites. The next section or the next service is socialization. This is a broad service that's inclusive of many different socialization programs, and we fund many different agencies to provide those socialization programs. Services under this type are focused on developing and maintaining relationships and community connections. An example of a funded partner that all four of us fund is Pathways to Independence. And finally is retirement supports. And so these services really focus on relationships and community connections as individuals age into and throughout their retirement years. One of our funded partners for retirement supports is AADD, or Association on Aging with Developmental Disabilities. The next service category is professional services. These services are provided by qualified professionals and support both the physical and emotional well-being of the individual and or their caregivers and family members. Within this category, we have therapy, counseling, and then adaptive equipment and assistive or enabling technology. So for therapy, this can be equine or aquatic therapy. DDR also funds UCP for therapy. For equine therapy, we have DDRB and PLB fund Treehouse. You also may have heard this commonly referred to as hippotherapy. And then aquatic therapy is provided to individuals using the water for its therapeutic benefit. And one of the examples of a partner is Show Me Aquatics. Our counseling services can be general counseling, so otherwise referred to sometimes as talk therapy. And this service can be provided on an individual basis, to a family, or in a group. Some examples of our funded partners include Bridges in St. Louis City. Epworth provides services both in the city and St. Louis County, and the center in St. Louis County. And then finally, we have our adaptive equipment and assistive or enabling technology partners. This service is funded in St. Louis City, St. Charles County, and St. Louis County. There are 4 agencies who provide services, these services. 3 of the agencies, UCP Heartland, the Center, and Variety for individuals up to age 21, support individuals and families in accessing, obtaining, and then the training on pieces of adaptive equipment and or assistive and enabling technology. We also fund St. Louis ARC's Life Tech program, which is a newer program. It's a little bit different from the other 3 providers that I mentioned, in the sense that they strictly provide and assess for individuals who wish to use medium to high-tech solutions to increase independence in their home, potentially on the job, and or in the community. This may look a little similar for those that are familiar with DMH's Technology First initiative, and that service is available to adults, so individuals 18 and older. Following professional services is the support systems category. This is another one of those broader categories, and it's inclusive of many different programs and funded agencies, all with the intent to strengthen the individual's natural and formal support systems. So we have family support, childcare, advocacy, educational supports, in-home support, and facility-based support, which the in-home and facility-based are also commonly referred to as respite. And so for under family support, These services support individuals and families through education, training, parent-to-parent connections, and linking resources out in the community. For those who reside in St. Louis City or County, if you're familiar with family navigation, this is the category that they fit into. This is also where the services that Down Syndrome Association provides within our funding. For childcare, these services support children who require additional staff support so that they can fully participate in their school break programs and or before and after school care. The YMCA is funded by both DDRB and PLB to provide this service in St. Charles County and St. Louis County. Advocacy are services that seek to educate and promote equality, rights, and respect for individuals with developmental disabilities. Some of our funded partners within the region include Easter Seals Midwest, Options for Justice, Paraquad, and the Epilepsy Foundation. Our educational support services support individuals to gain the knowledge and any skills necessary to understand their own diagnosis, pursue personal interests, and build healthy relationships with others. An example of a funded partner who provides this service in all 4 counties is St. Louis ARC through their launch service. And then finally, we have in-home and facility-based support. As I said, these are commonly referred to as respite. This service provides intermittent short-term relief to the primary caregivers, whether it be in the home or outside of the home. Some examples of agencies who provide this service include in St. Charles County, Community Living, who provides both in-home and facility-based services, and then the Crisis Nursery, who provides facility-based services. In St. Louis City, Easter Seals Midwest provides both in-home and facility-based services, and Judavine Center provides in-home services. For St. Louis City and St. Louis County residents, we, both DDR and PLB, fund St. Louis ARC for in-home and UCP, their Oak Tree home, for facility-based services. And then also in St. Louis County, PLB funds KBC, which is formerly Great Circle, for both in-home and facility-based services. So with that, I will turn it over to Kathy, who's going to talk you through the final 4 service categories.
All right, thank you, Amy. So I'm going to be focusing on employment, and we'll first start off with employment training. These are services that support individuals who may or may not be actively employed to gain skills so that they can either obtain employment or maintain their job. They may be learning new job skills. There's 2 different categories in the employment training. The first is youth. That supports youth who are currently enrolled in school to develop these skills necessary to obtain or maintain employment. Typically for youth, these are time-limited trainings. Some of them happen during the summer break, like if you might have heard of the SWEP or the STEP program or neighborhood experiences. In St. Louis County, the Center for Specialized Services is a special school district collaborative partner for transition age students seeking on-the-job experience. And in St. Charles, we have the Bridge to Success program that works with 4 of the 5 local school districts in a work experience program that can either be 1 semester, 2 semesters, or more than 1 year, depending on the individual's need. And that's takes place at Embassy Suites, the Convention Center, and Fresh Time. For our adult employment training, this is people who have they're post-high school, so they've completed high school, but they still may need to develop some necessary skills in order to obtain a job in the community. These are typically time-limited services as well. There's a variety of programs in the youth training programs. Some start out as volunteer experiences. Others start out specifically for job skill training in a specific trade, and others are more generic to just basic job employment skills. And there are ranges from 3 months of training to about 2 years. And we have over 6 providers that provide this service: Lafayette, Step Up, Mercy, Easter Seals Midwest, BCI Skill Center, and the center and St. Louis ARC and UCP. So a lot of providers doing that. Then the next is once people are employed, we have employment services, and those are supports to help people develop and maintain their skills so that they can continue being employed or potentially advance in their career. We have sheltered workshop is our first category, and that service typically provides a supervised employment option with pay based on productivity. And in St. Louis County and St. Louis City, there's 6 workshops. St. Charles, we have 1 workshop, and in Jefferson County, there's 1 workshop as well. And then so we have supported employment. Those are for individuals who are employed in the community in employment, and their staff there provide the ongoing support to work with the employer and the individual to maintain that employment. And currently we have about 9 supported employment providers. Then there's a third option, which is HR, human resource support. That takes place in 3 hospital systems, and it connects supported employees directly with the hospital's hiring leaders, helps people explore job opportunities, and going over hospital hiring practices, accessibility, and really just providing overall education to hospital staff so that they're able to include people more seamlessly in the employment services there at the hospital. So then our next service is employment transportation. And those are for individuals to access employment through safe and reliable transportation. Transportation, I would say, is provided most differently in all of the counties. Some of our services are very alike in all of our counties, and others of those are very different. And a lot of times that has to do with other funding sources that collaborate on providing that service, and that's why it looks like a little differently in each county. So in St. Louis County and St. Louis City, OAT is the primary transportation for sheltered workshops. For individuals with service coordination, individuals complete transportation forms or packet with their support coordinators, and that's how they're able to access that service. In St. Charles, we have 2 transportation reimbursement programs. One is to assist people with, if they're in employment training, to get to those training sites, and the other one is for competitive employment. Any transportation that individuals get to sheltered workshops in St. Charles is funded by DMH through the Medicaid waiver program. And the next is agency supports. This is kind of a generic category, and it is funding that goes directly to the agency for development or effectiveness of their partner agencies. Typically, it's maybe one-time projects, or it might be administrative dollars that support the other programs that the agency provides.
So as an alliance, we have a strong commitment to quality and accountability. The ERA staff review services to determine whether they successfully meet the people's needs, are a good use of taxpayer resources, and are funded at an appropriate level based on historical utilization. We complete these activities to evaluate service delivery, quality, and impact. This information is used to make informed funding recommendations and decisions each year. We have a partner review process where a partner review meeting occurs at least every 2 years and allows the staff the opportunity to gather information to make funding decisions, strengthen the partnership, and ultimately increase impact. When those partner review meetings are conducted, they are done jointly. So if an agency receives funding from all 4 of the county boards, we do that meeting together. So we don't separately go in and have individual meetings with our partners. Every year, they submit an annual project standards assessment and project update, which just gives us a snapshot of where the project is at the time of submission in terms of how well are they able to utilize the funding that we've provided, what's the demand look like, what are some successes, maybe some challenges that they're facing, and how are they doing with outcome measurement and individual satisfaction measures for us. In addition to informing funding decisions, the partner review process allows us to determine if there are capacity building opportunities, peer learning opportunities, and helps us to understand if there are some resources or ideas that we want to share with our partner agencies through the Alliance. We are very lucky to have some wonderful partners in the region, and we really do consider them the experts at what they do. We also periodically conduct service visits where we observe the services firsthand, which gives us a great opportunity to understand each service better, see the staff and individuals in action, and to learn more about successes and challenges of individual services. At the end of each fiscal year, so we all operate on a July through June fiscal year, we do require some end of the year reporting, and this is data that's really used to measure the impact of the funded services. Again, this helps us in making funding decisions and to really demonstrate that return on the community's investment of their tax dollars, to show that this funding really truly does make meaningful difference in people's lives. And so we try to capture that kind of information as best we can at the end of each year. We look at both outputs, which outputs is typically like how many people receive the service, other kinds of outputs like in the supported employment area, we collect a lot of information about what do the wages look like, how many hours do people typically work, do they have benefits, have they received a promotion in the last year? So those are examples of outputs that we collect. We also collect, again, outcomes and indicators that give us some sense of what impact, again, this service might have had on a person's life. Try to capture that as best we can. And then, of course, our success stories. We love the success stories and like to share those back out, because that's really what is the key to our funding, is what kinds of successes are we creating in the community. And then we do also do fiscal monitoring. Again, we are tax receiving entities, so it is very important that we are good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. And so we do have our finance directors all work together as a team with funded partners to assess the agency's overall financial controls and their condition. Are they a financially healthy organization? And so we have some experts on our financial teams that can really assist agencies with any financial questions that they have, or also, again, can provide technical assistance if needed to the different agencies. We've each kind of prepared an individual slide. Again, I'm with Developmental Disability Advocates in Jefferson County. And it's our mission to provide resources to create opportunities for people with developmental disabilities in Jefferson County to live full and enriched lives. We fund services like those that we just talked about through our county property tax dollars, and we typically receive about $4 million in property tax dollars every year. We also, like 3 of the other boards that you'll hear from, provide service coordination through a contract with the Department of Mental Health. We serve around 1,000 individuals in Jefferson County, and we serve everyone who is 16 and older in the county. And then we do serve individuals under the age of 16 without Medicaid or autism funding. There are about 350 people under the age of 16 that are served by the Department of Mental Health in our county because they do have Medicaid or autism funding. So each of our counties has slightly different service coordination parameters and how we provide that. So we thought that this slide, these slides would be helpful to understand that.
Thanks, Stacey. So yes, the DDRB's mission is the DDRB is a leader, ensuring that individuals with developmental disabilities living in St. Charles County have quality opportunities and choices to be fully included in society. And as Stacey said, the things that we do, so we fund the services that we've talked about today, and our property tax is about $14 million a year. And we serve approximately 2,500 individuals each year with those dollars. We additionally provide case management services, and we serve about 1,300 individuals through our case management program. Some of those 1,300 individuals are included in that 2,500 individuals served above. Some people just get case management. Some people get case management and participate in some funded services. And we do have individuals who just are in our funded services and do not have active case management. So there's a combination of all of those there. Our case management program, we serve individuals 18 and over who have Medicaid. And then we also serve individuals in the transition ages of 16 and 17 without Medicaid. Our hopes is to get them connected to services as an adult, help them apply for Medicaid if they're eligible, and get them connected before they leave high school.
So our mission, very similar to DDA, DDRB, PLB, is to ensure individuals with developmental disabilities have quality services, choices, and full inclusion. And our tax, it looks like about $7 million that provides opportunities to over 1,300 individuals of all ages. And we partner with 39 organizations to provide 70 plus programs. We have a team of support coordinators, or we call them service advocates, supporting city residents, and services can begin at 2.5 years old in the city. And so our case management side is made up of 15 case managers. They're excellent at their job. Each case manager works with 35 people. They can work as tightly with the individual or their family as needed. And individuals can choose between DMH or DDR case management. And we want you to choose us if you're in the city. We're always looking for referrals. And our director of service coordination, her name is Samantha Montgomery, and I can try to, before I get off, I will put her email address and phone number in the chat. So I want to go back. Our office is South City, kind of like 44 in Hampton, and it's pretty easy to get to. Our case managers can meet with you at our office or at home or somewhere else in the community. And similar to DDRB, DDA, there's two sides to DD resources. Like we've talked about, there's the funding side, and then there's the case management side. And similar to what Kathy shared, that individuals that benefit from our funding or case management, some access both funded services or just case management, both, one or the other. And to be eligible for the funding side, the funded services, you don't have to be registered with the Department of Mental Health. You don't have to have case management. And the same for PLB. And I think I saw a comment pop up in the chat for DDRB, individuals do need to be registered with DMH, and Stacey, is that right? Same for DDA as well. Okay.
PLB, our mission is to fund quality services, foster collaboration, and drive innovation that creates opportunities for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who live in St. Louis County. One of the ways that the way that we're different from all three of the other county boards or SB 40 boards is that we do not provide targeted case management or service coordination out of our office. Here in St. Louis County, we partner with the Department of Mental Health, otherwise known as St. Louis Regional Office. And then recently we had CHS, who also moved into St. Louis County, and both of those entities provide targeted case management. We collaborate with them, we communicate with them on a regular basis. We go out twice a year and do presentations to their case managers or service coordinators so that they are aware and knowledgeable about the services that we fund here in the county, to make sure that those with case management are able to access services, just as those who don't have case management. So as Nate mentioned in the opening, PLB was founded in 1979. So for over 40 years, we've been around. In FY23, which was our last fiscal year, so that ran from July 1st of 22 to 6/30 of 23, we appropriated over $24 million to provide opportunities to just over 4,200 individuals. And so our dollars span across a person's lifetime. The youngest individual that an agency has built this for is 1, and the eldest is 90. These services are provided by approximately 40 different agencies who in turn provide 110 different services. And so that is PLB in a nutshell. We do want to take a moment at this time to kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about resources that are available to you all. And so one of the resources that is newer is the IDD Gateway Resource Guide. This guide was put together, it's on a Google site, and the thought process behind it is to be an interactive tool for users, whether it's a family member, whether it's an individual, whether it's a professional in the field, to go to be able to gain information about our region's resources all in one spot. So kind of like a one-stop shop. The thought process behind the design is so that you have one place to go, you're able to have an interactive experience. Many of the logos on the site will link you out to that agency or resources website so that you don't have to go back and do a separate Google resource. One of the things that we've heard from case managers, families, individuals themselves saying, there's so many things out there, how do I know where to start? And so that's kind of where this idea was born. And so if we can take just a moment, Linda, I hope it's okay. We just want to share this with you really briefly. This is what the IDD Gateway Resource homepage looks like. So it gives you a little explanation. Family navigation in St. Louis City and St. Louis County is a short-term service similar to case management. So these are our partner agencies who provide that service in both of those counties. And so as I mentioned, when you hover over, you'll see the little hand pop up. That means that I can click this. It's going to take me directly to Easter Seal's website where it talks about the family navigation service. Also, if I keep scrolling, these are the common questions that individuals or families call our offices and ask. We used to fund IDD Help. That was a 3-year pilot project. It was a collaboration of funding between DDRB, DDR, PLB, and then the United Way. That ended because overwhelmingly we heard from families that they wanted that hand-over-hand assistance or someone to be able to come out and sit with them and help them work through the process similar to their case managers. And so these questions came from these common questions came from information garnered from that service. Up here in the right-hand side, you'll notice we have funding systems. So these are broken up into 2 categories. You have your government agencies, so Department of Mental Health, Folk Rehab, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and then the SNAP program. If you click on them, they're all kind of organized in the same fashion. So if I clicked on here, it would take me directly to the Department of Mental Health's website. Steps to get started. I can find my local regional office. I can see what their disability eligibility criteria is, what their financial eligibility criteria is, what will happen if I'm found eligible, what waivers are available, and then if you're found ineligible, you'll notice that there is a spot at the bottom of each page that will send you back to that home screen. You can also get to regional resources from here, which is all 4 of our pages. And you'll notice when you go into St. Louis County, we don't have a targeted case management section, but St. Louis City, St. Charles County, and Jefferson County does. So it has a link to their website and then how to access their targeted case management services, and then the funded services that we just spoke about today. Then this has need assistance. It has DDRB's phone number and a generic email. Our funded services category breaks down all of the funded services that we talked about today into those categories that we walked through. So that's those pages. And then we have an other resources page as well. Some of these services are funded by the SB 40 boards. Some of them are not. They're just simply resources that individuals may find useful or helpful. We have advocacy, crisis support, educational support, assistive technology, family and peer support, financial and legal, housing, seasonal, and then COVID-19 resources. So I just wanted to take a moment to share that with you all to let you guys know that that's out there. Other resources that we've included on this in the slide presentation is links directly to all 4 of our websites. We have sent this PowerPoint in a PDF format to Linda, and so she will be able to share it with you all at a later time.
I was wondering about, so I know you went over that you cover, or that one of your funding buckets is childcare, and you, I think you gave the example of the YMCA there. Yep. Okay, I had a question about, like, do you ever fund like specific schools, or like, especially, I guess I'm thinking of early childhood or like a daycare for, you know, kids who are not old enough to go, you know, to like a K through 12 school yet. If you ever fund direct schools, and what that looks like. We had a hard time finding a placement for our kid with Down syndrome, who also has a couple of other like medical issues. But we didn't qualify to go to the, I'm forgetting the name of it, but the medical daycare facility that's in the region. Luckily we found a place, and they have been doing an excellent job of learning how to be more inclusive of disabilities, and they've been doing more and more. And I'm just wondering if like they could potentially be funded, but they are in the city, by the way. So I guess, Nate, I'm asking you this question, but generally speaking, you know, like I'd love to see them, but also other, you know, early childhood centers and daycares receive support to have those extra staff members to care for kids with disabilities.
We don't have any direct funding relationships with some you know, the city schools and kind of the generic daycare centers, but I hear the need that you're talking about, and I would love to you know, partner with some of those organizations to either train staff or to bring in those additional supports. And so that's where we're at. But I think Kathy at DDRB, they do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, so in St. Charles, we do fund 3 school districts that provide early education, so from 3 to 5 years old. And we fund the out of school time. So typically they either go to a half day or a full day of preschool services. And then if their child needs that extra staffing, we fund the schools for that before or after their paid programming, and or during the summer. Some of the one school district we have works, has school year services and during the summer for preschool. The other two districts only have before and after during the school year. So that's how we fund that. And then we fund daycare or services for one school district for school age kids before and after and summer breaks. And then the other two school districts are covered by the YMCA that Amy talked about earlier that we both fund. But we still have unmet needs in some of our other school districts that don't either offer the programming or the YMCA doesn't go out like to the Wentzville school district. So currently there is nothing there. We also fund a middle school and high school program that is not inclusive because typically middle and high school students don't need those supports after school or during the summer. So we have a program that is just served by people with disabilities during those older school years.
I have a question for the funders. Hi, everybody. My name is Makini Anwishe, and for those that don't know me, I work here at the Down Syndrome Association, and I am a part of the Adult Family Services. Question for the funders here. Since we've been being funded by you guys, we know that we have to now ask for either DMH numbers or Social Security numbers. Could you talk to our guys, please, and tell them exactly why you need that information?
Sure, I can take this one. So the information that we collect is utilized because it helps us verify that that person is who they say they are, as well as that their residence is in the county that they say. So that's why we ask for like address, things of that nature. We use DMH ID, birth date, and or Social Security number to ensure that we have the correct person in St. Louis County. We also have a memorandum of understanding, the PLB does, with the Department of Mental Health because we do not provide targeted case management out of our office, so that our system, and I am not an IT person, so forgive me if I don't explain this using the correct terminology, but our internal system goes out and meets with DMH's system and collects batch data on all of the individuals who receive TCM services through the Department of Mental Health and matches them in our system, because there are times when individuals, as we talked about before, we don't require individuals to be associated or receive targeted case management to access PLB dollars. However, there are a handful of individuals that DMH has deemed eligible. And so we don't ask those individuals if DMH has deemed them eligible to acquire additional documentation to state that they have a developmental disability which meets our standards.
So I'll add a little bit to that. One of the things, with identifying information, it is very similar to going to a doctor's appointment and asking your health insurance to then pay for that doctor's appointment. Agencies provide services. They're kind of like the doctor, and individuals go to those agencies, receive services, and then the agency is asking these funding sources, which are us, the county boards, to pay for those services. So it's in a way to identify, to collect data, and for us to analyze that over the lifespan. So we might want to track an individual's usage of service from birth to when they're a senior. And when we have that length of data, we're able, and the same identifying information, we can collect that data regardless, typically, if they were in St. Louis County or St. Charles, if they have one identifying number. So when you're asking someone else to pay for that service, there needs to be data and identifying information for us to collaborate to pay for that service, because that's how agencies bill us. The other thing I'll add, because DDRB and DD Advocates does require individuals to be eligible for the Department of Mental Health Services. Individuals do not have to have active case management to receive our services. They just have to go to DMH once, apply, and DMH verifies that that person does in fact have a developmental disability. They verify that. You only have to do that once. And once you're identified as a person who qualifies, then for the rest of your life, you don't have to reapply ever. We do fund one of our services, FACT, Family Advocacy and Community Training, that will assist families with applying to DMH. We know it's kind of a burdensome process. It's an application that might be difficult to fill out. So we have funded staff at FACT, and they will walk the family through that, help them through that, even if they have to, if they get denied and they have to appeal it, FACT can help them appeal as well. So there is a support in order to do that, and you only have to do it one time in your life. And by asking for both of them, it really helps, because sometimes a DMH number might be off, but you have the Social Security number, and we're able to then match them up and correct one of them if they're wrong, because sometimes, you know, people make human errors entering things into systems. But, you know, just like when you go to the doctor's office, you verify every time, is your address current? Is this information current? And so when, as an agency, having to ask that information of their customers, they're just wanting to make sure your records are up to date, and that you can report the information correctly to the funding source if necessary.
I have a sister that's 46. She has Down syndrome since birth and now has Alzheimer's, and she's in the middle stage of that. And we know that once they get to be about age of 40, 99% generally start getting the development of Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
I have found it in the last 2 years when I spoke to her physician about the need. My parents both passed away, leaving me with the responsibility and the blessing of caring for my sister. However, being married with 2 of my own children, her disability and her mental health changes has made it more difficult to keep her in the home, because our home's not handicapped accessible. When we applied back in 2015 or 2021, it was December, we were denied access to her getting extra assistance. And it has cost us over 1.5 years trying to get her to get those assistances that she needs, putting added strain on the family. Considering I have a college age student, a high school student, we're all capable of trying to help take care of her, but it's been to that point. As the preschool mom parent, you know, made comment that, you know, her child needs assistance in that early age. What are we doing and thinking forward about those that are aging in our population as the baby boomers are passing on, leaving the responsibility of those of the family members that are left behind? My parents unfortunately did not have a living will or anything like that. So we ended up having to go get conservatorship and guardianship over her, putting another financial burden on us. I've lost a job as a nurse. I'm not able to keep my hours and sometimes sign on bonuses because of the behavioral changes based on the diagnosis itself and the Alzheimer's on top of it. So the burden of needing help is growing. Transportation was denied back in, 2 years ago from BCI. She was already on the Medicaid waiver. But that also caused a familial strain, almost to the point where my husband and I almost got divorced because we could not meet her needs and our family needs because of the lack of support, even though we have all these millions of dollars of tax money. So I'm just curious as what the utilization review is doing when we have a doctor's note stating within 10 days of an appeal, why that went ignored. And you may be hearing my case later on, I'm sure. I have a wonderful case manager at this point. The one previous was for 5 or 6 years, has retired, leaving a gap in the ISP. So that other thing is my concern is that those are not getting updated. Head to toe assessments need to be made at least every year. And it has best quality of living in their paragraph forms, but they're not determining what the deterioration is, what the feeding needs are, what the dressing needs are, what the ADLs look like. Because as a caregiver and a sister and a mother, and all the transportation needs that go into caring for adults with disability, with Downs, especially since we're on this board, what are we doing to help target these families that are in desperate need to fund their own selves in their own homes? And you know that the Social Security disability is not covering all that goes into caring for an adult with disability. We're actually paying extra out of our own pocket. But if we lose our job and our income as a result of the lack of funding and resources, then what happens?
So your questions all really go along with our case management service that typically people receive Medicaid waiver funding to pay for those services. So those types of services for people who really need more intensive services are paid for by the state. They aren't really included in that $14 million I was talking about earlier in some sense. So, you know, typically the Medicaid waiver will pay for more intensive services that people have. Those would include like residential services. They would include personal care services that individuals would be eligible for. It would pay for transportation to a day program or BCI. Unfortunately, the state has many complexities in administering their programs. One is that they're not always paying the providers at a rate high enough in order for that service to be delivered. So in St. Charles County, we do have a serious unmet need of transportation. So there's only one public transportation available in St. Charles County, and that's in St. Charles City, and it only operates Monday through Friday in the city limits during the day. Other than that, we do not have a bi-state, we don't have call-a-ride, so we don't even have generic transportation services that are available to citizens in St. Charles County. The second part of that, which is even worse, is that there is no provider in St. Charles County that is willing to accept the rate that the Department of Mental Health is willing to pay to provide transportation services. And they haven't been providing transportation services for almost 2 years now for people who go to day programs and or the workshop. That affects probably at least 400 people's lives in St. Charles County. And so it is a huge missing. We are trying to work on that issue. We funded a project through BCI for them to help develop potentially a new transportation mode using DMH's dollars, because we can't afford to pay for the transportation. So continue to advocate that. And the people to advocate most with is the Department of Mental Health, your state representatives. They're the ones that determine the budget for DMH and the rates that they pay. We have no control over that, and we are actively working on that as well. And continue to work with your case manager on advocating for the support needs that you need through that UR process. That's a state process that there's levels and how people are determined eligible for services. One of the problems with that is many of the providers through the state, you might be eligible for a service and have the funding, but there's no provider willing to provide it, similar to the transportation. That might be like personal assistance that you might need. And there's not a provider out there willing to provide it. So I hear you and I sympathize with you. I would love to have a solution and rates and providers to do that. We continue to advocate for better rates. They have changed a lot of the rates for providers in regards to residential services, day habilitation. So they are working on that. In your case, you have to work closely with your case manager and their supervisor to advocate for those services through the Department of Mental Health. For the DDRB directly funded services, agencies determine their eligibility, and the referral for that service typically goes directly to the agency. And we do try to, as best as we can, pay rates that allow agencies to be able to hire staff and provide the services. In some of our services, there are many positions that agencies aren't able to fill. And so right now, not all the individuals who would like that service are getting it because agencies don't have the staff in order to provide it. And that's not what we want. We want to fund programs so that people get those services and people's needs are met. And we continue to look at that on our rates that we give every year and try to give increases so that agencies can hire the appropriate staff and provide those services.
The screen now has all of our contact information on it. And so I would recommend Sarah reaching out to Nate, and he'll be able to specifically give you the process for which you can request or apply for a position on DDR's board.
Got it. So the board members, they serve on the regional one. There isn't like a board that governs the what's the Eastern
The
Regional
Alliance.
Alliance.
Okay,
So
so
we each still operate separately, and that's because so each board is comprised of 9 members from our respective counties.
got it. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and a special thank you to the Eastern Region Alliance. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please reach out to me or the DSAGSL. Thank you.